is Lars Fidler and this is Lenny Håkansson. We're from Students of Goju here with Science of Skill in a series of 5 videos about troubleshooting size disadvantage. In this second video we'll talk about weight. The problem with weight is that my opponent is more difficult to move. If I want to push my opponent or pull my opponent or twist my opponent or pull my opponent down or raise my opponent's center of gravity, it's more difficult. If I'm just moving arms and moving necks, everything's more difficult because it's more heavy. And similarly, my opponent can more easily move me by walking into me and leaning into me and grabbing me and leaning back and running into me and just pushing and pulling. It's more easy for my opponent to move me. For that we need a good stability. The key points of stability are wide base and a center of gravity that's low and centered. We'll leave base for another video or article, and for an elaboration on posture, check out the first set of videos about striking in fighting. What we're going to talk more about today are ways of affecting our opponent's balance. We can do that in a lot of ways. We can do that by displacing base. If we're fighting and my opponent is grabbing me and pushing me and pulling me or stepping in to put weight behind his attacks or whatever, my opponent takes a step forward, proper step, heavy step. I just before his foot hits the ground, I sweep it away. Opposite way, another step. If we're fighting here, and you're pushing and stepping in. With a sweep, I follow my opponent's motion. With a block, I stop his pace and let this momentum continue. Another way of using momentum, my opponent hits me heavily, and he swoops, and I get a few chances to get his rhythm. Holding back, not to run us into the wall. The heavier it is, the more easy it is because the more momentum I have to use. Same principle with a push. If my opponent steps in heavily to push me, he's already on his way forward. I just apply. If the push comes, we'll go slowly. From the other way. Oh, that makes sense. I just let the momentum go. Apply a little lever. I have one support out here, one support here at the elbow. I add that effect. There are many tools we can use, but many of these are a bit more technically difficult. So the two we're going to look closer at today are 45 degrees and non-resistance. 45 degrees, we have 90 degrees forward, 90 degrees straight to our side. Right in between those, we have 45 degrees. One way of using those, my opponent grabs my shoulders. He does so to push me back, or running into a wall or whatever. Using his momentum or pulling him with me, I move 45 degrees backwards. Straight forward, he's strong. Straight to the side, he's strong. 45 degrees, I can pull him with me, even if he's bigger than I am. From here, I grab, in a perfect world, I get this grip, right along the sword edge of his hand, with my 3 bottom fingers. I have a chance of this because he's grabbing me, and by twisting away, I get an opening here. But if I just get the wrist, or just get around the fingers or whatever, just try to get as good a grip as you can. From here, I can move 90 degrees. In this case, for the sake of illustrating the principle, I'll move another 45 degrees this way. Step 1, show it again, just slowly from here. 45, 45. We have a chance of belly up here. Now from here, just pushing my opponent down could be difficult if he's strong. Even stepping forward, pulling him sideways, if my opponent is strong and heavy, it's going to be difficult. 45 degrees is weaker. From here, I have a lot of ways. I can use repeated nerve stimuli, I can use my body weight, I can use all sorts of things to enhance my technique. One thing I can do is use 45 degrees. We have 90 degrees straight forward, 90 degrees straight down, 45 degrees there. From here, he's weaker. If I want to enhance it further, I can apply another 45 degrees. We have 90 degrees straight that way, 90 degrees straight downwards. So I have 45 degrees forward, 45 degrees to the side. Doesn't take much. Train your eye to look for 45 degrees because they're usable in a ton of different techniques. The last thing we're going to talk about is non-resistance. We all recognize the scenario of picking something up that's less heavy than we expect it to be. We prepare for lifting something heavy, and then our balance may even be lost a bit when we realize that it isn't. Same principle applies in fighting. My opponent expects resistance. So if my opponent, say, for example, grabs my cuff and aims to pull me in, and I just follow when the pull comes, or even accelerate. I step in with my head, with my shoulder, with knees, with hands and attacks. I'm close to the distance and I've taken some sort of initiative. Another example, my opponent grabs my shoulders, he wants to turn me around for whatever reason. And instead of ending up here with his grab or an arm around my neck, I spin further and create new opportunities. Combine that with an attack. Say, for example, the spin comes, I go to groin, or I spin around with an elbow, just to get something to happen, to create opportunities that I can use.